Okay, but if I do this, I'm going to go back to playing Marathon as soon as it's over. Hello! Today I'm going to ramble about Vantage Point's runner cards for an extended period, and then rate them. What a concept. Here's the 5-point rating system. If you've been here before, you know what's up. 5 is meta shifting, it's a strong build around, potentially best in slot and roll. 4, solid, wow, I cannot talk already. Few notable issues, strong but less exploitable than a 5. 3 is decent, it's a role player, it has competitive alternatives, niche use cases. Basically, this card is playable, I don't have a ton else on that. 2, not great, has clear weaknesses, outclassed in its niche, hard sell. 1, oh no. As always, please remember there is nuance within these ratings, and also that a low rating does not mean a card is not fun, and that last one is going to be load-bearing as I talk about some of these, because I think the runner cards in Vantage Point are, on the whole, kind of weird. So, we're going to get into it. Starting with Chain Reaction, number 1. It is a 1-cost, 5-influence Anarch event, so you know this is going to be spicy. Play only if you've made a successful run on HQ, R&D, and Archives this turn. It's a quest card. Trash 2 installed Corp cards. The Corp trashes 1 installed runner card. I'm giving this 2 Castlevania 4 Chain Whips out of a potential 5. The fact that JNet hasn't evolved into nothing but Anarch games should tell you how this is doing. I know some people were a little nervous about this being baby APOC, and I'm here to tell you, very fortunately, that it is not that bad. Chain Reaction is not a bad reward for a quest. Let me start there. I actually think this is one of those cards that is explicitly extremely fun to play. But that Corp Retaliation hurts a lot against most decks that are capable of playing this thing in the first place. Aside from ESSA, it is tough for Anarch to find an extra click to run Archives after without importing the means to do so. And ideally, you would bomb the remote, take what's in it, and get an upside. Also, ESSA can't really play this because you're gonna lose your spine. So that's a problem for them. Not great. It doesn't really fit cleanly into any pre-existing game plan, and yet it doesn't feel quite powerful enough to warrant being its own win con. This feels like a supplementary piece, which is strange. That said, it does combo really interestingly with Deep Dive. If you can already Deep Dive, then you can also Chain React. And if you can do one and then the other, like, surely there's some interesting stuff in there, right? I haven't cracked it yet. I've only seen decks doing one or the other and not both, but I feel like if Anarch can afford to import Deep Dive, and Shaper can maybe afford Chain Reaction, and if Shaper, the Recursion faction, can afford Chain Reaction, that might be something. There might be some sauce there. We should be grateful that this seems to land on the fun side of the scale as opposed to having another APOC or Deep Dive on our hands. I know I alluded to that earlier, but I really want to hammer home. I just think this card is neat. I enjoy it. I've enjoyed having it done to me. I've seen it done to me in incredibly creative ways. Shout out to Lucy. It's neat. It's just not ultra powerful, and that's okay. This is good. Moving on. Number 2, Take a Dive. 2-cost, 4-influence event. It is a run event also, so hey-oh. Run HQ or R&D. If successful, and a subroutine resolved during this run, give the Corp 1 bad publicity. Remove this event from the game. That part's important. You really would not want this to be recurred, because I'm giving this 4 awoos out of a potential 5. This being in the same set as Chain Reaction is legitimately interesting. By which I mean this is a much stronger card, but they play off each other rather well. This is a really nice play as part of that, either to set up getting the Chain Reaction done by way of having the bad pub in place already, or setting this up, letting something fire, and then utilizing it from there. I think it's really interesting. This is the single easiest way to stick a bad pub for the runner. There is another card in this set that can do it, and I like that card, but this one is just very clearly purpose-built to be like, oh, yeah, I'm gonna let, like, a draw sub-fire or a lose money sub-fire, boom, bad pub forever. And they really can't do a whole hell of a lot about it. This is amazing in Shaper as well, especially for Ari, and Baz loves this card. This, legitimately, I see a case to use this in every faction, and that's kind of cool. Expect this to show up in Reg Anarch pretty commonly, likely as a 1-of, though. I could see a 2-of, but a 1-of is like one of those things where it's like if you have an opportunity to hit them with a Take a Dive, you take it. Lou, in particular, is a massive fan of reducing run cost by 1 forever, and if they have naked assets, reducing all their things like you're playing Demolisher, oh my god. Yeah, bad pub. Amazing for Lou. Single easiest way to land this is actually with Stick and Poke, which means that there are 3 to 4 direct Rio support pieces in this set compared to, I would say, arguably 1 for Topan. And that makes me a little sad, because I, against all good sense and reason, really like Topan. If you'd asked me in Elevation if I was going to be a Topan fan, I would have said, no, you sick freak, but now I'm the sick freak. And yeah, not to say that Reg Anarch out of Topan won't play it, just that, like, oh, you're not really a Topan card, you're just kind of good. But yeah, no, Take a Dive. Anyway, I'll stop talking about Topan. Take a Dive's great, I love this thing. Moving on. 3, Tungsten Tailor. It's a 3-cost piece of hardware, 3 influence. Each piece of ice gets -1 strength, we've seen that before. The first time each turn you break a sub on a piece of ice with 0 or less strength, gain a credit. We haven't seen that on this before. So I'm giving this 3 boy dinners out of a potential 5. It's a lot easier to say nice thing about Ice Carver now the turbine's gone, huh? The credit upside will likely more than pay for itself over the course of the game, assuming you get this on the table in a timely manner. But the real win, as always, has been messing with breakpoints. Making it so that your kind of wonky, or in the case of like Buzzsaw, rough to boost breakers can get to their thresholds more easily, can save you a grip of credits. It's really, really nice. And Tungsten is absolutely capable of doing that, so big fan. There are plenty of cases where TTT saves you a boost. That alone is worth playing it for. The question becomes, and this is why it's a 3, are those matchups in Ice sufficiently common? If you consult the math, which I will once again link in the description, I'm a little less enthused, but the good news is you're Anarch, and Anarch has access to Leech and Crew, and that means that you can do it. Like, you will make it happen. How often it happens natively, not as common as maybe one would hope, which is why this is a 3. Best enjoyed by slotting 1 to 2 copies in Reg Anarch, ripping it with the price and matchups where it matters, and dumping it when it doesn't. Yeah, that's the ideal case for a lot of things, and this is very much one of those. I think 3 credits is a fair price for what this card does, but it's also anti-Topan discrimination. I will not stop beating the Topan drum. Number 4, Corsair. It is a 3-cost 1 MU program. It's an icebreaker and a fractor. It is 2 influence. Interface. 1 credit, break a barrier sub. And then also 1 credit, the barrier you are encountering gets -3 strength for the remainder of this encounter. Spend credits only from stealth cards to use this ability. Now, before I talk about this in earnest, remember, Tungsten, other ice reduction or ice strength reduction stuff already being used, etc., etc. Here we are with another really large one, and yet I'm giving it to You Are a Pirates out of 5. Realistically, I give this a 3. Because its math is decent. But as a rule, I do not respect stealth unless smoke is involved. Smoke is not here. I do not respect Corsair. Thank God this thing doesn't break with stealth, but starting at 0 means that it at least requires copious leeching or crewing to not drop all your stealth bucks like Sonic dropping rings. A harsh breeze is going to hit you and you're going to hemorrhage all of your stealth wallet. Barriers being common and good means that Corsair will run out of gas remarkably quickly in anything but the most dedicated stealth rigs. I do appreciate a card with crew in the name being instrumental in making yet another boat function, and thank God that NSG broke the trend of boats being busted for some reason. I don't know why that's been such a thing, but I'm not really impressed with Corsair. I think its use cases are actually going to be more about just using the reduction for things for ice destruction than actually using this as a breaker, which is a bit of a shame. If you were going to use a stealth breaker as part of a support one, this one's just a little too intensive to get past the subtype of ice that it's actually built to handle, but the utility of that 3 strength drop over and over is significant. It's also interesting if, like, we do see a Devil Charm ban or anything in the future, this could end up being a way to kind of maintain that game plan with a bit more work, and it would be reusable. So there is potential there, but I'm kind of grading this on how I've seen it used and played and how I have seen and used it myself, and I found it underwhelming. Number 5, Lampades, or Lampades, is a little bit closer, although I'm not perfect at that. It's a 1-cost, 1 MU program, 2 influence. When you install this program, place 3 power counters on it. Access, spend a hosted power counter. Pay the printed res or play cost of the card you are accessing. Trash that card. Spend credits only from stealth cards to use that ability. Oh. I'm giving this 2 drachmas, and I think I'm being generous. They printed Lou a stealth card? Sure, I guess. By the time you install this, build up a stealth source with 2 or more creds on it. Or draw into air check in Anarch, because I don't think anybody's going to splash Lampades, and run. Why didn't you just install Gourmand? No, really, I'm giving that an entire extra bullet point. Why are you playing this when Gourmand is so good? Like, is it just because it's new and shiny? Do you really want to make stealth work in orange that bad? Like, explain it to me. Because even when I've lost 2 decks with Lampades in it, it's been significantly worse and it has not been instrumental in that loss. This card kind of doesn't do a lot. Even when it actually does something, it's so much work to get there that it has slowed those Anarchs down enough that I've been able to get more momentum and outpace them while playing asset spam. While playing asset spam against Lu, I have outpaced this thing. That is a bad sign. The only reason I'm giving this a 2 is because it does actually do something. There are areas in which this is effective, but compared to Gourmand, it is sad. Number 6, Hackerspace. It is a 2-cost resource, location, unique also, by the way. 1 influence. Oh, okay, so they want us to splash this? You can install unique companion resources and unique connection resources onto this resource. Each resource installed this way costs 1 less to install. While this resource has a hosted companion and a hosted connection, you get plus 2 maximum hand size. Okay. This card does a lot of things, and it's a little inelegant in how it explains them. But to summarize in a nutshell, this is a means of, kind of like a daemon, hosting all of your friends in one place, getting a coupon, and then when you get 2 different things on there, you get hand size as well as kind of a nice little upside. I'm giving this 2 Hackermans out of 5. I have trouble imagining IDs other than Essa would bother with this, as he already has better ways to add hand size. Several, in fact. That's not to say that Essa won't play this, because they do play companions and connections. But especially one that we're going to talk about later. But outside of Essa, is this really anything? I don't think that it is. Not even Reg Anarch really wants this. The discount's okay-ish, but the cost of companions is rarely a problem that needs solving. As a matter of fact, if you get Paladin Poimu down, you're kind of fine-ish on most things, to the point where you can save enough money to get the rest of your friends out, no problem. It's not really much of a factor, and the hand size is just a weird bonus that I don't think I understand the choice on. Like, it seems like they just decided that was okay to hand them, and that was that. If anything, in a lot of cases, Anarch would rather not extend their hand size unless it's a kill matchup, because they want to hit their strike funds and steel skins. So I'm confused. There are enough ways to trash a resource that hosting them on here just seems like a risky move for minimal benefit. I don't buy that you're going to want to put this down, risk an errant tag or a trash effect like playing against Weyland at all or what have you, and then lose all your friends and hand size that you don't care about. Also, did we really need to give companions even more value? Like, they're so efficient already. You get so much value out of them for very little cost. A lot of heck, the VTuber companions barely cost anything as is. You're going to save $1 on that? Really? Like, does that matter? Do I want to pay 2 to do that? No, not really. Like, I don't think I understand this card. I get what it does for Essa, and that is really about where it stops for me. Number 7, Nurse Hanh. 1 cost resource connection, 1 influence. You're probably not going to splash this one. Whenever 2 or more face-down cards in archives are turned face-up, draw 2 cards. 3 Nurse Joys out of 5 here. But this is one of those 3s where I feel like the rating belies the effectiveness. Essa and Rio are extremely happy to have this. Everyone else probably won't care a ton unless Chastuska or Cacophony become meta, but Essa and Rio are very happy to have this. Jinteki discarding things aside, this exists as a reason to run archives more often, which they already had, so this is just better? This is a really good, effective source of draw that doesn't go away, that rewards you for doing what you were doing anyway. You will play this in those IDs. 1 inf is odd, considering other factions can't really play much for sabotage pressure very easily. I don't think I fully grasp the flavor effect here. They've said that influence isn't always just a mechanical decision. Sometimes it's a flavor decision. But the lack of utility outside of Anarch does strike me as particularly odd, although obviously it's a good amount of draw if you do manage to make that work. As it stands, though, I don't think you'll be seeing this outside of Anarch. One credit for several instances of draw over the course of the game is absolutely worth playing, even if you can't exactly use it at will. This is not Orange Nuka. I will not pretend it is Orange Nuka. If it was, it would be a 5, because that's a bonkers thing to have. But Nurse Hanh still represents a lot of power. I like this card quite a bit. The amount of direct ESSA support in the set compared to any other Anarch really worries me. To be transparent, I don't like playing against ESSA very much. I don't think ESSA is the healthiest kind of archetype to be throwing direct support behind, and this is that. And so I'm nervous. I have had some nail-biter ESSA matchups that have ended positively and negatively, and Nurse Hanh was there for all of them and was just a massive amount of acceleration. Didn't like that very much. You know, it didn't show up? Hackerspace. Anyway, moving on. Number 8, Stick and Poke. It's a 0-cost, resource, companion, virtual, 3 influence. The first time each turn you encounter a piece of ice, it gains a subroutine. Do 1 net damage. The runner draws 1 card. Before its other subroutines, for the remainder of that encounter. I'm giving this 2 possums out of 5. It's nice to see NSG printing post-Bankar Rio support. It's a bit of a shame that it's an entire card slot and does nothing for anyone else. And I know that's not technically true, but come on, you are not itching to play Stick and Poke. Do not lie to me or yourself. However, I really don't like this card. This design is at odds with all of the things that make Rio interesting. The runner no longer cares what they run into because everything procs Rio for minimal cost. And the Corp no longer feels compelled to hold back installing ice with soft subs. They're just going to do it because you're going to stick and poke them anyway. I really don't like that. It effectively turns Rio into a less impactful, but like very consistent ESSA, and does absolutely nothing else for anyone beyond make it impossible to goof take a dive. Yuck. Like, there are things that care about hitting or letting subs fire, right? And Stick and Poke does that reliably once per turn, every turn. But the whole neat thing with Rio, up until this point, was having to make decisions and then everything that pushed onto the Corp. It was a tricky decision for both sides and a really fun game design puzzle, and now that's just gone. It's just gone. Yeah, I have problems with these possums, which is a shame because look at them. Also, I will say, if someone actually cracks Rio with this, you are obligated to call it the S&P 500. Also, look at this Rio with a possum for a face. We're in Criminal, my territory, number 9, which I have not been doing these numbers, but whatever, that's the least important thing on the card. Virtual Intelligence PI, you can call me Vic, and I will. You are Vic. New ID, 4515. 4MU, no link. Identity digital. Once per turn, click, spend a credit, draw a card, remove a tag. We're going to handle this slide a little differently than my usual, because I'm not going to give you the rating up top. Whenever you look at a new runner, consider how you can use their text to win games, not just make not losing more comfortable. Okay? That's important. Vic is better at recovering from self-tag than any other crim, but having to find proactive uses for your ability is a kind of grim prospect outside of transfer of wealth. Every other source of self-tag that Vic could be running is a little iffy. It doesn't really want to do that beyond maybe Eru, okay? And so if you look at this card in a vacuum, you know that thing I constantly say you should never do? This is 2 Nick Valentines out of 5. And then you read Vic's actual text, which reads, the first time each turn you make a successful run, draw 1 card. If your identity is digital or you have at least 2 link, also gain 1 credit, and it becomes 4 Nick Valentines immediately. This is what Vic's text actually says. It's just the DreamNet text, okay? And it turns out that's much better. This is the regest crim possible. This is an extremely powerful thing to be able to just do. And the only reason this isn't 5 is because the text doesn't also say start every game with DreamNet in your hand, all right? This is not Ashes Rise of the Phoenix Born. We don't get to pick our starting hands here. And so there is a chance that you just never get a DreamNet, and in those games you are going to struggle. But every other game, you're doing great. However, I feel a certain kind of way, and it's not a positive one, about an ID being entirely attached to a card, because we've seen what happens if it gets taken away many times. We've seen it with Padma. We've seen it a bunch of different places, okay? As of right now, DreamNet is sufficiently powerful in Vic in particular to justify playing it over more proactive crim IDs. I like a lot of criminal IDs that we have access to right now, and when I play Vic, I'm a little bored, but I'm so rich and flush with my board is full, and my hand is good, and my wallet is happy, and I win with it, so I play it. I don't know how I feel about that. That makes me feel a certain kind of way. But it really is just the reggest reg crim to ever reg crim, and I can't hate that. So, yeah, VIPI gets a 4, but, like, understand that it's just because it carries DreamNet. That's it. That's all. Such a cool concept for an ID, too. God, I wish you got just a little bit more juice out of that, because, like, this is one of the neatest concepts for an identity in the entire history of Netrunner. So I'm simultaneously overwhelmed and underwhelmed, and I think that I've reasonably articulated why that is. You will be seeing Vic a lot. Number 10, Kompromat. It is a 2-cost run event for influence, so pretty hefty. Run a server protected by ice. When that run ends, if it was successful, give the corp 1 bad publicity unless they derez 1 piece of ice protecting the attacked server. Remove this event from the game. Alright, so this is the blue take a dive, or, you know, that one's the orange Kompromat. But this one only gets 3 Hitchcock blackmails out of a potential 5. Both halves of this card are tailor-made for Baz. No other crim gets as much value out of bad pub, no other crim gets as much value out of derez, okay? So let's start there. Awesome that this is like a big shot in the arm for Baz, who is already decent, but this is great. It is not as good at sticking a bad pub as Take a Dive. Just straight up, it isn't. It has an out for the corp where Take a Dive doesn't. But the derez is solid in its own right when used intentionally, or like with intention. The earlier you see this card, the better. And the bad pub adds value for the entire game if you can stick it, especially after a transfer. If you manage to run and they can't res, you just get it, and that is huge. But can you actually do that? The answer in a lot of matchups is yes, but the answer in a handful is no, and when the answer is no, this card is really rough. And, like, yeah, I'm okay with cards being matchup dependent. That's completely fine. The problem is, I've been reasonably happy with this as a general use tool in reg and run event crim, but I don't think anyone but Baz can afford the critical mass, which I would say are 2 to maybe 3 copies, to reliably see it in the early game when it matters most. And that lack of consistency is what gives me pause when I otherwise wouldn't have it. I like this card a lot. I have a lot of fun playing it. I'm just not entirely convinced that you're going to see it all the time, because, which is probably fine, to be honest. Like, you don't want a full-on, like, blackmail situation, ironically, despite that being the card name. I'm just not 100% convinced that it's going to be able to do its job as reliably or as well as Take a Dive or some other derez effects. That said, it is both of those things, and so it is very cool. I like it a lot. It's just not as powerful as maybe it might initially seem to some folks, nor as weak as some people seem to think that it is. This card is good. So, number 11, Sell Out. 2 real big fish out of 5. Anyway, I just wanted to finish the bit. It's a 1-cost event. It's 1 influence. It says, as an additional cost to play this event, trash 1 installed resource, gain $4, draw 2 cards. We've seen those before. Tell me it's cool. I just don't believe it. This is so much worse than spec work. It's unreal. I very nearly gave this 1. But if you put resources in your deck that you'd... Okay, let me actually phrase this the way I've phrased it on here, but I want to go a slightly different direction than I initially wrote. If you put resources in your deck, you'd likely rather use them for their intended purposes, not sell them for net 3 credits and 2 new cards. The Morea sisters are here for a reason, right? They can be used, then they can be sold. Julie, in particular, is nice that way, in that you can use most of her procs and then cut her. And then Debbie is nice because you can cash her out and then cut her. But neither of them see play beyond Debbie and Methuselah, and Methuselah doesn't want this because she can't draw it. It's not a run event. So who the hell wants you? I'd rather just import knickknack and sell class acts, nearly spent open markets, daily casts that are on 1 tick, etc. Like, I would rather blow a giant pile of influence to do the kind of thing that this is doing than even play this card in decks that are doing that. I don't like this card very much at all. It is really, really rough spec work. That said, I love the Days of Future Past reference. Good job. It looks really good. The art on this is fantastic. It's just not particularly good. Number 12, Tailgate. 3 cost, run event, 2 influence. The play cost of this event is lowered by 1 for each piece of ice protecting HQ. Run HQ. If successful, access 2 additional cards when you breach HQ. 3 legworks out of 5. Hey, welcome back, legwork. You're technically marginally better. That's cool. Considering Ice HQ is click 1, turn 1 against Crim, this is a straight reprint of legwork that's eventually cheaper. Neat. Like, that's cool. It's also, like, a cooler looking card. Like, the thing with legwork was that it was... I don't actually think that was Silhouette on the art, or if it is, I've just always found it looks sufficiently different from Silhouette's ID that I couldn't tell. But whoever it was, they were sneaking in as, like, an exterminator or whatever. And I love this, like, very contemporary tailgating concept with the pizza box full of gear and everything and a gun in the back pocket. Like, it's just... It's legwork, but cooler. It's the cooler legwork. We're happy to have this. You won't see this outside of Crim. Cup is better in most cases, especially in Shaper, but it's still a tremendous amount of pressure when timed well. Seeing 3 cards in HQ is a backbreaker when done right. Now that we have this, we just need a similar effect to Maker's Eye, and Musliat will be set for life, which I really appreciate. We're so close to being able to play Kentenma again with 2 fewer influence and a better ID ability. I just need a Maker's Eye reprint. Come on, NSG. Give us a Maker's Eye. Come on. I know you can do it. Oh, God. Okay. Number 13 is Borrowed Goods. It costs nothing. It's a hardware chip. It's 1 influence. It's 1 MU. When you install this card, if you are not tagged, take a tag. 1 Akamatsu Mem chip out of 5. Please say psych. Please? This card's a joke, right? Like, this isn't the real card. We're not doing this. This is the meanest I'm going to be in this entire set. I just want you to know. Like, this is... I can't stand this thing. Most Crims are not in desperate need of a 6th MU in the first place, and they aren't even especially interested in blowing 2 clicks and 2 credits for it. This is literally worse than T400 Memory Diamond in every case that isn't playing it after a transfer of wealth. And playing a Borrowed Goods is about the last thing I'd ever want to do on a turn where I could be applying post-siphon pressure. I want to run their centrals, I want to run their remote, I want to trash their stuff with that money, I want to do literally anything with the rest of that turn, with my time, then install a mem chip for free. Are you joking? I guess Seb could play this for the tag proc, but why? Seb doesn't care about extra MU either. That almost never matters. So who the hell wants this thing? This is the only card in the set I feel this strongly about. What the hell was the point? Why are we doing this? In what world is Borrowed Goods worth putting in your deck? God help you if you want multiple of them. Like, what are we doing? Who is this for? More like Akamatsu meme chip, lmao. Yeah. I don't want to be mean. I don't have anything to say about, like, the design methodology that went behind this, because I do not know the hearts, souls, and methods of the folks over at NSG, but this card is a massive whiff. I actively dislike it. It feels like Crim just got 1 less card. Yuck. Yuck. I'm moving on. Number 14 is Rotary, and this one's really neat. It is a 3-cost hardware. It's a new console. Okay. So, pause for a second. This is a criminal console. Criminals have all the best consoles. So this is going to be really important that we look at this carefully and evaluate it on a different scale. Alright? 3 influence. Reasonably hefty. 1 MU. Whenever you breach HQ or R&D, you may take a tag to access 1 additional card. Ooh. Okay. Click 2 credits, trash this hardware. Only the corp can use this ability, and only if the runner is tagged. And then the limit 1 console per player stipulation that's on all of these. I'm giving this 3 Garfield phones, but that might be generous. This might be a little bit worse. Because here's the thing, right? It's not that Rotary's bad. I went bug-eyed when I first saw this console. Built-in multi-axis in Criminal? Oh my god, I want that. And then I remembered that I'd have to give up Hermes or Penny Shaver, and I calmed down. A lot. It's not that Rotary isn't powerful. It is. It's that Crim has become the faction with the good consoles. And the opportunity cost for playing Rotary, as a result, is sky high. Vic's text is so minimally impactful most of the time that you don't actually need this to justify playing the ID that carries DreamNet with twinning. So this is not a Vic card, with big ol' air quotes. If anybody wants this, I think it might actually be Xayah. Errant extra accesses are worth a lot more when you get paid to make them. So I think that's a pretty neat application. You run in with Xayah and a copy of No Free Lunch. Maybe you have an Eru or something like that, or you're using Baker, which we will talk about. You take the tag, you do the thing, you clear it instantly. Like, there are plays with Rotary that are really attractive. That extra Xayah dollar could potentially add up to a lot. I like a lot of things about this card, which is why I gave it a 3, and I do think it's a pretty powerful effect. The problem right now is just that, like, Crim is replete with amazing, really great consoles. And I struggle to pick Rotary and build around Rotary. So I think it's neat. There will be at least one Xayah deck at some point that I managed to put together that I'm really happy with, but I haven't quite cracked it yet. So I'm rating this more on just the value of constant multi-access than anything else. It being a whenever is kind of bananas. We'll see how this pans out. Number 15 is Baker. It is a 3-cost, 1 MU program, 3 influence. Once per turn, click, run archives. When you would approach archives, after passing all ice, you may pay 1 credit to instead change the attack server to HQ or R&D and approach that server. Spend credits only from stealth cards to pay this cost. 4 009 sound systems out of 5. Oh, hey, I know this card. For the unfamiliar, this was my spoiler card. NSG very kindly gave me a spoiler to talk about. This was it, and I couldn't believe it, because I would have thought that, given what I do, they would have given me something like borrowed goods, and instead they gave me maybe the best Crim card in the set. This is undeniably stronger than Sneak Door Beta, because it's effectively Omar's text, the old ID, for a stealth credit. But remember, this card is useless without a support piece, and that lack of consistency, that need to assemble a 2-card combo in order to use this thing in the first place, matters a lot. If you are asking, hey, does this work with X card, whatever that is, the answer is typically yes. Deep dive, cupulation, twinning, etc. This also means that it runs into defensive upgrades like a regular run, okay? So all the upsides, all the downsides, pretty much all the time. The difference is you're doing it all from archives until you aren't, which is really, really good. Consider, as well, Flagship doesn't go on archives. It's not allowed. So they can't even, like, mess this up in any kind of way. Nor would it work anyway, because that messes with successful runs, and this just says, hey, when you approach, you swap servers. So, like, yeah, Baker's really good at just getting in through archives to wherever it wants. Consider the following. You run archives, normal. You Baker HQ. You flicker Baker with Simulchip, and hit R&D, so you spend 2 stealth credits, and you deep dive. I'm just going to let that fizzle in your brain like an Alka-Seltzer, okay? This thing absolutely dunks on Nebula, dunks on Earth Station, arguably kind of beats on Melia's U. Though Melia's is such a good IDE in general that I feel like you can kind of just play more of a mind game with them and probably still get your value anyway. Regardless, get ready to ice archives, buddy. It's coming. I don't think you're going to see a ton of Baker, but I think the decks that play Baker are going to feel smotheringly oppressive. Just, it's going to be brutal. I really love this card. I had a lot of fun playing it. I had a lot of fun theory crafting around it, and a lot of the stuff that we theory crafted with bore out. The best stuff is in Shaper. You're going to notice that that's a pattern, but on the whole, really, really cool. Baker is really fun. It's a nice excuse to play a little bit of stealth support without going all in on it, and I think that's where stealth is best, because otherwise I'm not a huge stealth fan. So, cool card. Number 16, Underdome Irregulars. 1 cost, resource connection, 2 influence. When your action phase ends, if a piece of ice was rezzed this turn, draw 2 cards, or remove 1 tag. If no ice was rezzed this turn, trash this resource. Okay. I'm giving this 2 discard phases out of 5 here. This is hardly a blue Nuka at all, but it is legitimately interesting that it's clickless post-install. That is cool. I like that part of this card. However, the best case is you play this after the corp reses. Next turn, they either continue... So basically, you play it after the corp reses so that it's guaranteed to hit once, okay? So you get your 2 cards. Next turn, they either continue unabated, and you get cards, like you were kind of like fitting a free Nuka click in there, or they don't give you the draw, and you get to pass ice once before it trashes itself. Okay. Drawing after your action phase ends is the worst timing possible for anything other than damage recovery. You can't play the cards, and it checks for hand size after. So that sucks. Unless the timing structure, or the turn structure has fundamentally changed. I stared at the reference just to make sure I wasn't completely out of my mind for this. This is a bad draw window. Like, it gives you those things before the turn wraps, but it doesn't do the class act thing of, like, protecting you after the fact. It just kind of, like, you know what? I'm gonna go so far as to click into my other screen here and look up class act just to make sure that it is not doing what class act does, and sure enough, no. No, it is not. It is just worse. Okay, I'm not out of my mind. Yeah, this isn't great. I think that this is almost exclusively a Baz card. I think it's a nice piece of pressure. I think it's an additional incentive to, like, mess with will they, won't they on res, and I think that's neat. And for 1 cost, that's perfectly fine. But because you can't depend on it to actually do anything, I can't rate it highly. I just can't. Number 17, Hiram, omission, Svensson. Once again, sorry, Hiram is shorter. It's going to be Hiram. I don't think omission is going to stick, even though that is a really cool handle. 4MU, 0 link, 4515, identity, natural. Okay, you don't get DreamNet. Sorry, buddy. Whenever you install or trash a piece of hardware from any location, look at the top card of R&D. Okay. So I'm giving Hiram 3 spy cameras out of 5. Any ID with a win con on it is worth attention. This is a win con. This is, I know what's on R&D. It's info. And info is one of those things where it's like, it's not as valuable as you initially think that it is. But when it's specifically informing, hey, if you do this right now, you could get points, suddenly we care. We care a lot. And that means that Hiram's ability goes from being like a little bit of info or a heads up at what kind of ice and upgrades they have to, oh, now is when I make a run. Okay, I'm going to go do that. Huh. Hiram is a reasonable pick for a version or a variation on the girls archetype. I would want to call it Hiram's Angels, personally. Because touching the top of R&D from literally every central is bananas when you already know what's there. And you need less multi-access support, which means you can save slots, which means you can do other things with those slots. Very cool. Doesn't require a special deck to get sufficient value from the ID. The hardware that you already play in your reg shaper list, your simulchips, your DZMZs, your console, is likely already enough. Anything else you add is gravy, but you really want to make sure you don't oversaturate with hardware, because as we've learned, going super hard on hardware typically doesn't do a lot. So make sure that you have the right amount of hardware. Maybe you splash out for a Gachapon, maybe you do some stuff like that, but like, take it easy-ish, all right? Don't shift your entire deck building just to proc Hiram a lot, when in some cases it's entirely possible that you'll end up doubling up on the Hiram procs in a turn anyway, especially if it involves simulchip. Since it fulfills its function of touching agendas, and this is kind of a continuation of the Vic section where I mentioned how you need to evaluate IDs, the question then becomes, how good is this win con? To which the answer is, it's decent. It's great versus wide, which is really interesting, especially because a lot of wide decks tend to be a little more agenda dense, and that means they're even weaker to Hiram. However, it's a little bit rough versus Glacier. And to me, that averages out to, yeah, this is worth exploring, at minimum. I think that this is a good ID for sure. What has borne out for me, and for people that are smarter than me, is that Hiram is slow, which I guess is kind of fitting. But that is a little bit tough when Reg Shaper is so good right now. Also, please don't think Hiram equals stealth, okay? Nothing on this card says so. There's not a single thing on here beyond the backpack on his back, and believe me, we're going to talk about that backpack, that even implies stealth. And frankly, I don't think you need to be doing stealth at all for this ID to do everything you want it to do. Alright, moving on. Also, really quick, this is another just huge win for me. I love Hiram. I was a fan of Ian, even though he was garbage. I love Omar. Omar is awesome. Hiram is sick. This dude is just so cool. His story is, like, just, I like this dude a lot. Anyway. 18, air check, 1 cost, run event, stealth, 2 influence. Place 4 credits on this event. While this event is active, you can spend hosted credits and cannot lose or spend credits from your credit pool. Run HQ or R&D. When that run ends, if it was successful, you may run a remote server. We've heard this before, and it makes me very, very sad. I am giving aircheck 2 copies of Side Pocket for the Game Boy out of 5. And I want to point out, that's not Game Boy Color. That's a billiards game with no color in it. That should tell you about how I feel. Trick Shot Pals, we are officially not going to make it. Even against a corp that utilizes Bad Pub proactively, being locked out of your credits hurts. It doesn't function with Baker, which means it's literally unplayable. I can't finish that sentence. This isn't even enough stealth bucks to run a scoring remote, and you have to run a central first? Are you kidding me? The absolute best case scenario is that you use it to run a central, and then use the rest to trash a cheap, unprotected asset with what's left, ideally with Lampades. And as long as he's dreaming, Lou would like a pony. I have already been on both sides of Shackleton with this, and it is truly a nightmare. I don't think air check is good. I had this at a 1 until very recently when I finally saw it done well, and I still won that game. It's just not very good. Like, the idea of, okay, we gotta redo Trick Shot, but we need to make it weaker, and then they just kept beating it over the head with the ugly stick. Okay, aside from the art is amazing. That is not meant to be a slight on the art. I love the look of this thing. This is another one that I would want on a play mat or on my wall. Gorgeous. But the text box, bludgeoned to death with the ugly stick. Absolutely, there are cases in which you would play air check, but I wouldn't recommend it. I don't think this card's especially good. Number 19 is Beta Build. It's a 3-cost run event, 3 influence. Search your stack for 1 non-virus program. Install it, ignoring all costs. Shuffle your stack, etc. Run any server. When that run ends, if that program has not been uninstalled, add it to the top of your stack. Also, I just really like the flavor text on this one being, I don't need a forever answer, I need a now answer. I feel that in my bones. 3 test runs out of 5. Compile would have been the other one that I would have cited there. Objectively worse than test run, yet still a worthy addition to Shaper's toolset. You can finally go spearfishing for Orca and sell it to Knick-Knack for net 7. Heck yeah, living the dream that I wanted to do since last set. The question is, what does the rest of the deck do? And the answer that I have seen thus far is, like, Lobi Orca, Spark of Inspiration, like, very much the kind of kit-style big breaker thing, right? Dewi loves messing with MU totals, and will happily play a copy or 2 of this just to maximize flips. One of the strongest players in our meta immediately clocked this as a Dewi card, and he's a Shaper enjoyer, very much does this kind of thing, and he's just, like... he kills it. Like, he absolutely... I buy it. I believe him. I've seen it done. I 100%... I get it. I agree. Muse shenanigans, especially for Trojans, are worth getting your head around. Just remember, it doesn't work on viruses, right? I will not be helping you with that. It is too Shaper-brained for me. I have not experimented with that particular type of thing, and I don't intend to. The most I'm doing with this is spearfishing, because I finally got to live the dream. This is yet another way to flicker Euler & Co. This goes in the bucket along with rejig and stuff like that, which admittedly I would rather flicker it that way because it's easier, but you know, beta build is another way to do it, and I think that's kind of cool. Number 20 is Methuselah. It's a 4-cost hardware console stealth, 2 influence, 1 MU. Whenever a run begins, you may trash 1 piece of hardware from your grip to place 2 credits on this hardware. They're stealth credits. That's what the stealth subtype means. You can spend hosted credits during runs. Console limit, same as usual. Before I do what I'm about to do, I just want to say, look at it. God, look at it. This is one of the coolest pieces of art in the entire set. Hiram is a cool character. This is an amazing piece. Which makes what I'm about to say all the more heartbreaking, because I'm giving this 1 teal Jansport out of 5. Would you slot a card in your deck during deck construction that said discard for 2 stealth credits? I wouldn't. And Methuselah wants you to put a lot of those in your deck. Yes, this triggers Hiram, but you're already running. It's too late to matter. The only time it works is if you're using Baker, which, to be fair, Hiram would like to do anyway. But the fact of the matter is, the timing on this, for the console that they show him with in the art, is bad for Hiram. So what are we doing? This is impossible to justify versus Anacam, Lilypad, Madani, and arguably even Pantograph, and that is how you know it's dire. I like Pantograph, it just always ends up getting cut for something more tailored, but I would play Pantograph as a 3-of before I played Methuselah in almost any deck. Madani, to be fair, does demand that you draw and feed it, but all of those cards get to fill their function at instant speed on either player's turn for the remainder of the game. Methuselah doesn't come close to doing what Madani can do. This really couldn't have had another MU? You want me to pay 4 for this and you can't put 2 MU on it when you want me to install this stuff? Like, to support stealth on top of that? And then it's supposed to be a hardware-heavy deck that, like, what the hell? You will never get 8 bespoke stealth pieces set up and win a game of Netrunner against a competent corp with a decent deck, especially in this meta where you're more incentivized to go fast than we have been in a while. There is no reason why you should be playing Methuselah, even in a stealth rig, unless you are all in on stealth. And if you are all in on stealth, I don't think you're winning. I don't buy it. I don't think there's a world in which Methuselah actually gets anywhere unless somebody just manages to break this thing wide open and they literally always have, like, rigging up in their hand or something. Because, like, it's just not good enough, y'all. There are better things for Hiram to do. There's better things for stealth to do. There's better things to do than this. You can do better. Really, I should have given this a 2, but I'm giving this a 1 because I fundamentally do not care for this card on any level. Outside of the art. Again, it is gorgeous. God, this art piece is so cool. Anyway. Number 21 is Touchstone. 2 cost hardware, stealth, 2 influence. The first time each turn you play an event, place 1 on this hardware. You could spend hosted credits during runs. Also, it's a slide projector, and that makes me very happy for obvious reasons. However, I'm giving this 2 Fast Astral Projection for Dummies books out of 5. I know it says for beginners, but I know what I said. When I saw this card, I said, you mean to tell me they're reprinting prepaid, but it's a stealth credit? That's going to be the bomb! And then the monkey's paw curled, and here we are, and after playing it more than maybe it warranted, I'm here to tell you it is not that good. That unique diamond next to that name and the first time condition hold this card's potential back massively. If this could generate a stealth per event I played, it would be great. If this let me stack them and it was once per turn, but I could get, different instances of it on each touchstone, that would be great. But as it stands, you get 1, and you're meant to feed the others to Methuselah, and you know how I feel about that. This is by far best used with Anacam, to the point where it's actually a non-bow with Methuselah. This performs a lot better in an Anacam deck. Funny how that works. In Crim, it has potential, okay? But I have found it underwhelming as anything but a means of generating a credit for Baker. As I've played more stealth, and to be fair, I have seen some cool stealth stuff, especially in Xayah in particular, which is weird. But on the whole, I don't love Touchstone as much as I wanted to. The more I've played with it, the more I just want to play Trickster Taka. Trickster Taka is straight up better than this in every regard except for influence. It costs less, it generates stealth clicklessly without needing another condition. Just play Trickster Taka. I'm sorry. You could argue that putting those together is fine either in orange or green deck that's relying on stealth credits, but again, after a certain point, you're just building a stealth deck, and I'm going to be real, I'm still unconvinced by the dedicated stealth deck, even after this set. Number 22 is Read Write Share. It's a 0 cost, 2 MU program, 2 influence, limit 4 hosted cards. When you install this program, and when your turn begins, you may host 1 card from your grip face down on this program to draw 1 card. Trash it, shuffle all hosted cards into your stack. 2 Hooked on Phonics out of 5. I'm really sorry, Lucy and other Shaperheads. This is not just turning you into a 5-click runner. It's not, alright? There are a lot of ways to do that, and this is kind of one of those, but let's not lie to ourselves and say that's all it's doing, okay? So you slot copies of this in your deck, draw it, eat 2 MU, that doesn't really matter, it's early game, Shaper can afford it. Host a card, draw a replacement, and eventually toss all of those back into R&D 3 turns later to do what? Are you just going spearfishing with it? Okay, like, so what? Shaper is the best at draw. That's not why you play this. You don't need the help. You're doing fine. You play this to cycle cards like a worse class act. Alright, it's class act but worse. I don't like it. I think what fully pushes this into not good outside of green jank, for me in particular, is how disappointed I am to see this at any point in the game other than my opening hand. I very specifically want this to filter big stuff like Orca out so that I can do other things. And I like that it lets you find your pieces early. I actually do like it in the opener. The problem is, every single turn that goes by, if I see read-write share again, I'm immediately, feeding it to read-write share? Yuck. No. Nuh-uh. No thank you. Do not want. So yeah, I think that it's a cool Dewi card, and I think that it does some interesting things, but on the whole, I'm just not really into it. So yeah, green jank. Green jank. Shaper players, I love this for you, but I will not be doing that. 23, Sipa. 1 cost, 2 MU, 3 influence, 1, 2, 3, bada bang, program. The first time each turn you pass the outermost piece of ice protecting a server after fully breaking it, you may swap it with another installed piece of ice. 3 helpings of lumpia out of 5, and I will eat all of those because they are delicious. This is kind of the most difficult card for me to evaluate in the set. What I think this is a powerful tool for an archetype that doesn't yet fully exist. And it might be good that it doesn't, but I still think that what this does is really strong and interesting, and I want to talk about it for a little bit. It's easy to compare this to Tau because it's ice swapping, but the effect being at will instead of based on agendas significantly boosts its efficacy. Just don't install it in irrelevant matchups. Like, just don't do that. The pseudo-surf capabilities here, swap an ice for one that's 1 deeper in the server, and then you re-break that easy piece of ice. Oh no, I have a typo, are considerable. I really like it. I think it's a fun effect. I think surfing is neat. It's also often brutally oppressive, and thank goodness Sipa does, in fact, have that cutoff of first time per turn. And it's specifically first time, also. So you can't, do a setup run and then run the scoring remote. Like, you have to just go straight into the remote, straight into the spot that you want to target. And so that is interesting, and it has to be the one that you just passed, so it's a little bit limited in that regard. But it is really cool that it does it. 2 MU is annoying, but you're Shaper, it's fine. Like I said, for a read-write share, that part's not a problem. As if Deep Dive needed more support. This is not really, just a Deep Dive card, but the fact that it works with Deep Dive upsets me just a little bit. It is, okay. Anyway, number 24, Stowaway. It's a 0 cost, 1 MU, 1 influence. Program is a Trojan. Install only on a piece of ice. Whenever you make a successful run on the server, gain 2 credits. I'm giving this 3 gumballs out of 5. Well, it's definitely worse than Cubon, but welcome back anyway. Ari is overjoyed to have this thing. Huge, 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 huge. Okay? The single positive change from the original, in my mind, is that mid-run installs can hit confirm right before success as opposed to informing the corp beforehand. And I don't want to undersell that benefit because it is significant. It matters, right? So, again, decent. However, when this card was spoiled, we were having some conversations on the Stim Slack, and New Creation basically just spelled out everything that's worse with this card in one go. And I'm going to read it for the benefit of the audience here. This is, again, New Creation's list here. Some of the ways in which it's worse than Cubon. No credits if the run isn't successful. No credits when passing a tattoo bullet that gets swapped. Now, he did note to me specifically that this is you can't get credits when passing tattoo bullet if it gets swapped. This is true if it was on there before you passed it, but Ari can put it on the new ice after the swap to keep it around. That one's arguably decent for Ari. Downside for everybody else. So again, makes that 1 influence a little bit weird, right? Anyway, You only earn once if you pass the same ice multiple times, like Sisyphus Protocol or what have you. That one's kind of an edge case, but it's true. You can't move it with Spree to earn multiple, you just get the 2. If it gets trashed before the run's successful, you don't get anything. So if Boomy gets rezzed, too bad. Because the credit gain's delayed, it can't help you during the run. If you run a server with Flagship, you don't get paid. But at least you can install it with Ari right before you're successful. And again, I want to emphasize that matters a lot. I'm giving this a 3. It's obviously good. Ari obviously wants it, but it is a lot worse than Cubon. Ari's still overjoyed to have this, though. Is it UAV stocks? Maybe? I feel like anytime a Trojan comes out, people want to make UAV work. It's me, I'm people. And then eventually it goes back in the binder in favor of real cards. Plus, this just makes money, so, like, you're probably fine. But yeah, neat. I'm glad it's here. I'm glad it's back, but it is definitely notably worse in many ways. Still good, though. Finally, number 25, Word on the Street. 2 cost, resource, 1 influence. As an additional cost to scoring agenda, the Corp installed this turn. Ooh, I read that weird. They must add this resource to their score area as an agenda worth -1 agenda points. With, you cannot forfeit this agenda. When the Corp scores an agenda they did not install this turn, trash this resource, gain 4, draw a card. Okay. I'm giving this 4 Gossip Girl posters out of 5 here. Much like Let It Dream, though, my reasoning for this is weird. It's mostly because I think this is a really well designed to do agenda point denial. Only now the shoe's on the other foot. This is an interesting take on anti-fast advance tech. God, I hope the meta does not demand I slot multiple for 1 inf per copy. I am nervous. And I have reasons to be nervous, but we'll get there. The counterplay being scoring an agenda is normally, so the counterplay being that they have to score an agenda the normal way is really cool design. And you're going to want to, because that point penalty is brutal. Fast advanced scoring patterns often require specific orderings, or at least would rather do that, or they need like a giant pile of money. And this can represent a significant stumble in that pattern. Additionally, it just straight up nulls out a 2-1, which is really funny. Like, if it's a green mail, they probably don't care because it's there to get forfeit anyway. But like an Elvigar is points, you know? And that not being there suddenly is a problem. That's not great. This is just inefficient and infinitensive enough for most runners that you won't run it unless fast advance is a legitimate threat, which is good design. That's really cool. 2 cost means this is an honest-to-God Topan card. Yay! 4 credits and a draw for free? Yes, please. Don't get me wrong, it doesn't solve for Topan, but hey, yeah, actually really cool. I like that a whole lot. That brings me some amount of joy. I'm not gonna shut up about Topan, because for whatever reason, I don't know. I like them like I like an ugly dog, you know? Like I love Topan. I don't know why. Anyway, moving on. Let's make predictions that'll age poorly, shall we? I think Anarch is stronger than they may seem. Post-Hosh, you know, a lot of people are really dooming on Anarch. I don't think you need to be. I think they're okay. S is going to be the best, though. Then Seb, despite getting basically nothing in this set, because Seb is also really, really strong and gets a strong game plan. And then everybody else, Reg Anarch will probably just be Lu. I sadly do not foresee a world in which Topan Mania runs wild, given that they'll just be worse Hosh still, and Lu, meanwhile, gets a pretty significant benefit. And none of these cards, with the arguable exception of Word on the Street, will change that. Die-hard Anarch players have had it too good for too long, so this will feel harsh at first, but I've already played with and against very good Anarch decks in this format, and I have confidence they're going to be just fine. I do think that Anarch is actually pretty well positioned. Crim. So Crim didn't get much, but any set would suffer in comparison to Elevation. Elevation gave Crim a ton of really great stuff. Vic adds a more setup-intensive angle that pays dividends if you manage to keep the Corp from winning too fast. In fact, eventually Vic just gets to a point where there's really little you can do against it. Zaya and Musliat are still fine. Zaya more so, though. I think that Musliat's in a tricky spot, especially now that Flagship exists, where Zaya is just value. I fully expect Reg, Crim, and Twinning dominance to continue unabated, as if anything it's been notably improved. It's just a shame that the best decks are unlikely to incorporate much from Vantage Point beyond Vic itself, and DreamNet by extension, even though that's not a Vantage Point card. So yeah, a bit of an underwhelming set for Criminal, but hey, Vic's neat, right? Like, we like it. Shaper. So the best Shaper card in Vantage Point is Deep Dive. However, Shaper lost absolutely nothing and gained so much in the ban list. And if anyone's going to be able to leverage stealth, I do think it's Shapers. Mantle is still one of the better stealth cards, which is weird. Hiram's interesting and has legitimate applications, but pales in comparison to just staying the course with ladder mag, making the best value plays the card pool has to offer, and playing the strongest win cons available. Get ready for green in your post-tourney color pie. It's coming. And in fact, I actually have a little bit more to say about that. I'm going to make even more predictions that'll age poorly. This ban list is not going to last as is. Look, deep dive, as much as I love it, is unhealthy and arguably stronger than ever. We have more ways to land a deep dive than we even had before. Not true as of, like, the FFG era, right? But, like, going into Elevation, it was like, oh god, imagine if this stuck, and then they banned it, and then now it's back, and I don't think that was, I don't think that was warranted. Also, Daily Cast is cheatable with cards like Price, and it's fairly easily recurred via a lot of different tools. Expect one or both of these to go back to the binder depending on what's performant in tourneys. I generally just think that Shaper in particular is really strong, and runners are a bit too rich right now. By extension, playing against Shaper is borderline smothering. Most draw, most tutors, arguably most money, though Krim has something to say about that. Multiple viable win cons, all of which can be supplemented or adjusted around deep dive. Jesus. I'm just gonna say enjoy it while it lasts. I'm enjoying it, but I'm not enjoying playing against it. And I think that Shaper right now just feels really, 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 really powerful, despite playing so few of the Vantage Point cards in a lot of the decks that feel that oppressive. Some of that will ease up as we optimize the new corp stuff a bit more, because there's a lot of new corp experimentation, but I don't think we're there yet, and I think that Shaper very much is. I would not play wide corps into this card pool. I really wouldn't. Being thin on ice is going to get you dove, bad pubbed, ice destruction, which notably got minimal support, but there is some stuff there, or all of the above. Runners are incredibly kill resilient too, which is a stark contrast from early Elevation where no one could count to 8. It was really funny just watching people lose to a single measured over and over again, but we all knew that wasn't going to stick forever, which is why I thought that card was so cool. And I was right, but now we're running into a thing where, like, it is harder than ever to kill these runners. They're richer than they've been, and they're better at draw. They have anti-kill stuff that just gives them upside. Oh, and then the sheer ease of trashing stuff is just, like, I mean, total contrast from the start of the previous meta. I think we're seeing why they didn't ban Egg. I am a little sad about it, because I do like playing wide corp, but as of right now, I don't think I would play anything that isn't some kind of Rush or some kind of Glacier. In a tourney, obviously. Do whatever you want. VP introduced incredible variety into the corp card pool, but very little of it is viable into what has borne out to be good runner side, which notably features fewer VP cards. By that I mean, the best runner decks I have been playing and seeing have not been playing hardly anything from Vantage Point, unless we're talking about Vic. Vic is like the standout, like, hey, check this out. This is a big impactful thing that didn't exist until now. I do think a lot of this can be fixed with deft banlist management, though. And there's no new VP card that feels catastrophic to me. Thus far, nothing has felt broken, nothing has felt completely unreasonable, and that is, frankly, a really good outcome for a set. Genuinely, I like Vantage Point quite a bit. I just want to call out that I do think, as of right now, not only is this, like, runner meta, I feel like it could potentially become very runner meta. There are good corp decks, don't get me wrong. You can absolutely play into it. I just think that, like, we are starting at a base 55-45, but it's probably closer to 60-40 in my head. And frankly, there are matchups where I feel like the swing is way more towards the runner than a beneficial matchup is towards the corp against a runner that's not suited to them. It's a bit of a tricky time right now, but I do think that over time, like, the SBT and all will adjust and reasonably fit this. If it bears out the way that it has been feeling this early. Who knows? I might end up being completely wrong and it's just going to be nothing but Reg Anarch all the way down. Which is good, but even so. The good news for all of that, right, is that despite Shaper feeling the biggest to me, all 3 runner factions do feel legit right now. And that's good. And if you disagree, you can fight me about it at North Carolina Districts, which I'm still going to shout out. That is still towards the end of the month. I'm going to put the link to the event again in the description, just like last time. I am so excited. It's going to be a blast. Normally, I don't read the footnote at the end of these, but if I get shellacked in the first 2 rounds, I'm going to drop hop on comms and make it everyone's problem. It's going to be a great time. Thanks so much for watching. Vantage Point is a neat set. I am a lot hotter on the corp cards than the runner cards, but overall I do think there's some really neat stuff, even though I'm not a big fan of stealth. And I am excited to see where the meta goes, especially now that we're going to be going into a rotation in the next one. I think this puts it in a really interesting spot. So, again, thank you. Go play some Netrunner. I'm going to stop talking and play Marathon this evening as well, because I really like Marathon. That wasn't a bit. I legitimately just want to go play Marathon. Bye.